As a producer and an exporter of the country, do you think that the dynamics have changed?
To me, he is saying no immediately. But to me, I think, actually, you're right. They haven't changed in the automotive sector. I think if we three countries could work together, we would really be the superpower and be able to be probably the only quality manufacturers going to the rest of the world. So that is a dream of mine to be able to work towards this.
Anything else that you would like to add on about the opportunities and your own company's plans as well?
Well, my company's plans are we have started a company in the US called SMIC Auto Parts. We are working towards building our brand there as again a Make in India brand. We are in Africa, we are in Russia, we are in the Middle East, and we are growing. And my only vision is to put India on the map and be the only global aftermarket company with the best quality, with aftermarket OEM quality and aftermarket pricing coming out of India or out of the superpower hub if we create one. But it's really important for me as an Indian, as you know, knowing the quality and working very hard. And I have 500 people who work so hard every day. You know, they put in their blood and sweat into these parts. And then I want that to go out into the world and say, hey, listen, this happened here. For me, that's very important. So, yeah.
Thank you. We'll come back to you. Well, that affect your sectors. And do take a pot shot on him on the steel prices.
He's already smiling.
Okay, so I'd like you to, what are and the Commerce Secretary, when we met him, he said 400 billion is just for the public. But I want you guys to reach $1 trillion.
That's really nice, but if we had the support, we could do it. I think the major problem is Mr. Tata Steel sitting here.
Yeah, you continue with
So, no, I think the problems that we face right now is the freight prices are one. Secondly, our steel prices, where steel is being exported instead of coming home first and letting us take whatever we need and then the rest being exported. I think that is one of the major problems we have. It leaves us very little margins by the time we reach the export country to actually be able to do a business, so to say. Because we have to sell there, we need a margin. By the time we buy the steel, which is going up and we've been hearing for a year and a half, I think, कि अगले हफ्ते डाउन होएगा, अगले हफ्ते डाउन होएगा. 2 साल हो गए सर, कुछ बोलो.
No, but then how are you growing by about 66% this 5 months?
So
and not only in value terms, I believe you're also growing. India is also growing in terms of volume wise also. So the growth is, and this is not only the last year where we had the lockdown and so on, but compared vis-a-vis 2019 as
no,
well.
the automotive market is doing very well, especially what I'm in, which is the aftermarket. We are doing very, very well. We have taken 2-3 bumps and we've always managed standing up. We are doing that way. We have, it's just lately now which we have had the steel problem. But initially we have done really well. The problem with the export is we don't have, like now you look at the containers which have gone skyrocketing to get to places, the kind of pricing, the payment terms, it's difficult. We come through a lot of challenges for exports where had we had the kind of help where everything is smoothened out and made easier, especially for companies like me which are pure aftermarket. OEM companies are doing very, very well. An aftermarket company for me who can be big in export and huge on a global scale, I hate points where we get stuck where we don't know where to go.
Like,
So we need the kind,
get stuck?
we get, like for example, payments coming in, payments being made, plus again the payments going skyrocketing, are kind of margins that we need to keep. Because by the time the product gets there, then you have your distributor, you have this, the kind of margins we are getting because of all the other prices which are so high.
because they are not able to decide whether royalty is a tax or not. There is a case pending in Supreme Court since 2011, whether it has to be referred to a 9-judge bench court. So we don't know what would be the fate of RoDTEP for the steel sector. There can be certain enablers in terms of we are exporting to more than 190 countries. Either we can decide on certain countries where this facility can be extended in terms of strategic or geopolitical reasons, or in some of the products which we feel that it will help in future time to come. So that plan or that implementation government can think of. PLI, we all know the capping is 200 crores. Steel plant capex is more than 7,000 per million ton. So if someone wants to invest 8,000 crore, will they decide on this 200 crore benefit? I mean, that's a question. Which all we can ponder. The last and the one more point which you also raised was the quota. So we also feel that when we export to different countries, especially EU, we are not able to export more because the quota is reduced. And I'm sure the government of India, when they are implementing the newer FTAs with Australia, UK, UAE, Canada, they will not be in line with other FTAs, which are neither free nor trade nor implement. We have been suffering. Indian steel industry has been suffering. There have been certain good things which have come in COVID time. Steel is one such sector which has seen, I would say, V-shaped recovery. Everyone was in doubt what would happen after COVID-1, but then Q1 was really a disturbing factor for many of the steel companies, but then Government of India supported on many fronts and we came out. And we did also very well in COVID-2 when out of 9,000 ton oxygen production in India, more than 4,500 were being produced by Indian steel companies, and they came for fighting in at least on the oxygen deficit. There are other issues of transportation, container were there, but production fund Indian steel companies didn't back down. We even reduced our steel production to ensure that there should not be any loss of life because of shortage of oxygen. But yes, steel industry is cyclic. Almost commodity is cyclic. We have seen the major constituents or component of the steel production like coal, a shift from 100 to $340 or $380 today. Iron ore also has been 250 to 200, and again it has come down to 130. So there is a cyclicity not only in steel, it's in almost all the commodity, and steel is not an exception. We have also seen how the steel sector has been in a very different time, 2015 and 16. Most of the steel companies were in loss. In 2018, IBC also, the good thing happened that some of the steel companies, they acquired those companies who were under distress, and employment of the people working in those companies and Government of India, NPS, they were saved. So these are the two good things which happened. Today, as Sundara mentioned about the price, so I would again say that it's because of the constituents of the steel production which are again picking up the price. But then it is cyclic. We never know when it will fall down. We have seen in 90s, we have seen in 2008, Lehman Brothers, and today Evergrande story of China. We don't know how it will unfold. They are saying it is again an attack on property market and linking it with the Lehman. Some are linking it with the island affairs which happen in China. So how it unfolds in future, we are yet to see. And the Chinese production, we all know that it is close to 1,000, where India production is 111 and 114. So one event in China will disturb the market, which we are not aware of. And we have seen this disturbance or cycling.
Huge. In a typical manufacturing supply chain, the logistics cost in our country is almost 14%. Anywhere else in the world, in a developed country, it's about 7 to 8%. We have to look at these corridors and faster movement and cheaper movement of products, especially in the manufacturing space. That's very important. So I think the 2-3 quick points before I move. I understand that other panelists also. Africa as a market, we all know the US and the North America and the European countries and elsewhere, but Africa, any industrial unit or even a service sector unit, if it embraces Africa, believe me, there'll be huge market expansion possibilities. As I said, electronics manufacturing has to start. The country started electronics manufacturing, but since post 91, I mean, I'm a big fan of 91 reforms, but the flip side was that the domestic component level manufacturing, which had just started in India, it just died off. We need to, you'll be shocked to hear the electronic imports are almost of the same level as the oil imports of the country. You know, so why can't we, and there's no rocket science to manufacture electronics, you know, why can't we reinitiate that industry, you know, altogether? So I think arts and craft, heritage exports, is huge. No other country in the world can boast of such a rich heritage of arts and handicrafts, you know. Why we can't think of exporting that, you know? I mean, why, even if you go to a Delhi airport or a T3 international terminal, except one shop, there's nothing, you know, and that, I think, you know, why can't we look at this big time? Tourism, like I said, the country doesn't believe that trade can be a big contributor to GDP. Same applies for tourism and hospitality. We don't believe. See, Delhi is a landlocked state. You can't do major manufacturing here. Tourism could be a big possibility. But again, as a country, we have become, we are a non-believer that tourism can do big things for the economy, you know. And other things, you know, the labor laws simplification, you know, process simplifications, you know, those can go on. That's very important. I think I'll stop there, and perhaps I can speak on the subject for a couple of hours, but there are other panelists too, and I'll respond to some of the queries as the moderator puts it, or comes from the audience questions. But we have to become one-line summaries. We have to become a country of believers that trade can change the shape of things in the country and can go a big time in terms of creating a huge impact on the GDP and the resultant employment creation, which is country's biggest problem today. We are having a, we are having a jobless growth in the country, you know. And by encouraging trade big time, I think that could change, not that at the cost of other things, but it's very important. Thank you.
We are busy because COVID has killed more than 60% of such startups. I remember the VirtuBox, it was at a takeoff stage last year in the month of February. That's a global display solution. The orders were coming from India Expo Mart. It was coming from hotels. It was coming from malls like DLF malls, and also the COVID started. Everything got killed. Everybody stopped the payment, and there was a huge inventory of hardware also. And that is the IITs. They are still struggling, and they will continue. Now again they are trying to, no funding, no bank loan, no bank will give them the loan because they have nothing. So to pledge or something like this. So immense export potential require hand-holding of micro and small setup. मैंने बताया आपको कि 3,000-4,000 कैपेबल स्टार्टअप्स हैं जिनके पास कैपेसिटी है. You tell them anything, they will develop. So what is happening with us when they tell us about any problem, maybe industrial automation or anything, we openly take it as a challenge, and we will say we will do it. Give it to us, and we start working. We don't even ask for the payment initially. Once we do it, 30% of it, and we understand the entire scope of work, and we get confidence that we can do it, then only we send them the proposal that this development is going to cost you $5,000, something like that, and then we have meeting, and then they agree. And we are not worried about the payment, because payment has to come. Without payment, तो रोक ही नहीं सकते, मार ही नहीं सकते. And look at it. There is no container involved. There is no cargo involved. There is no custom involved. It all goes with a click of mouse. So integration, and again database integration with there, and commissioning. Automation involved integration of 2 factory web bridges and port operatorless. Our project was delivered online. During the installation and commissioning of hardware, of course, for which they were absolutely new, for that also we demonstrated each and everything to do them, how to do it online only by conducting on WhatsApp or conducting meetings, taking their team of their engineers into the group. So it was all installed, the software was uploaded from here only on their system, taking the control of the system, and the trials were done, and the training was also done online, and the system is working very, very smoothly. As a result of that, they recommended our name, and then 2 more companies came, Pure Floor Made Africa. So 2 of their companies each placed the order of over $10,000, out of which again $5,000 was software, cost of software, 50% was cost of software, and 50% cost of supporting hardware. This project is also completed, same way. This is all within this was started in May 21. The earlier project was started in August 20. So May 21, in 3 months, it has also been completed. Then again, the sister company, it's a group. It's the Insignia Print Technology, they are making packaging rolls. They also came out with their problem. They said we have 6 slitting line, and each slitting line is having a weighing machine. We are producing rolls and whenever the rolls are produced, each roll is being weighed, and then it is being sorted out, put at bed, then it is put into a pallet, and these are being dispatched. They say, can you do it? Can you automate the entire thing from the weighing, slitting line from the weighing stage till dispatch, because everything was manual. That also he said, okay, we can try. So you will not believe, we asked for the hardware they were having, and with their hardware only we decided, okay, we will do it, and we said we will start developing the software. In developing countries, buyer cannot afford developed countries service provider. And the biggest plus point in such export is that there is no threat, there is no risk involved. There is no risk involved of payment, because payment has to come. If the product or service is delivered, product is successful, nobody can stop. If they want to retain the product, they have to pay to you. They may pay you after 6 months or 1 year, but they cannot continue with your services without making 100% payment. So this is the basic brief background. So now I will come on the historic part of it. See, my story is basically, as I told you, this is the story of very recent, of last 1 year or pandemic period only. This company, Wiswin Infotech Private Limited, started 2.5 years back. We started doing customized solutions for industries here in India, like sugar industry, cement industry. Basically, the focus area was the automation in logistics. For that, we started developing customized software and customized solution for them. So last year, it happened that as my job of market development, business development, I was doing a lot of digital marketing. So I got connected with some European managers, you can say managers, or the IT heads of the company, and they started discussions. So one of the company there, like the Rafael Oil, which is one of the biggest company, working for 5-10 years, and started their own startups without any funding, without any money, without any bank loan, without any ECG assistance. All either from their provident fund or whatever saving, the wife is working, and they plunged into it. They jumped into it, and they are studying. And so some of the success story, as I have been already introduced, 2 startups. One is VirtuBox Infotech Private Limited, and Wiswin Infotech Private Limited. One is managed by the ITN engineers of IT Kanpur, very young, age of 30-32. Another is managed by software development engineer. They approached me 3 years back to join them as their business development manager. I examined the thing. These people were having the very good capability in IT development, and then they were also having some products also, but totally lacking the marketing. And like this only, that's my reason of coming here and sharing it, because I know so many. First I will start from the bit of, see why, the background is like this. we are the world fastest growing startup ecosystem India is having. So we are growing startup ecosystem. To name, there are 60 unicorn startups. Estimated 50,000 startups, out of which 19,896 have been recognized by the government under the Startup India initiative on 1st April 2020. So these numbers are basically recognized. So out of these startups, 19,000, over 19,000 recognized startups, there are around 10,000 technology-led startups, or you can say IT startups. These startups are spread over across the country, mainly hubs like Gurgaon, Noida, Bangalore, Chandigarh and all that. So there is opportunity for these startups. These startups, as I told you, are basically by the young entrepreneurs without any support, without any funding. There are few, those who have grown into Micron and all that, that who have got the funding, but I am talking about those startups which may be around 3,000 in the technology, micro and small startups who can deliver customized technology solution at the cheapest cost in the world. And developing countries like the African countries are the buyers. Because why they are the buyers? Everybody needs technology, that you are aware. India needs technology, similarly in developing countries they also need it more because they are too backward. But the plus point is that they cannot afford.